This is a Jmix exclusive.
Kasim Bazi, or Bazi, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Welcome to the show. Why did Michael Moore say Reggie's Nextel said got him? Well, the reason is because Michael Moore didn't have a radio of his own. If you go back and watch the assassination movies, we talk about that. Part one talks about it more than any of them, that the guards weren't allowed to carry radios. They didn't have any radios, and Frank didn't have a radio. Michael Moore didn't have a radio. So if anything was going to be heard over the Nextel radio, it had to have been the one that Reggie was carrying. And when he said got him over the radio, that came over Reggie's Nextel radio. So I hope that makes some sense.
To answer 2pacalypse now, no, I did not know the official Tupac channel got hacked. Did anything interesting happen with that?
They found out they only had 4 people.
Well, here's a fun fact. The official Tupac channel, if you're talking about the one that is on YouTube, was actually ran by a different person. And apparently that person fell off the face of the map, so the estate was able to grab that YouTube channel and keep all that guy's views because he had posted all the official Tupac Death Row videos on it.
Wow. Let's see. Kekistan divided shall never be free. Welcome to the show. Politics and all. Greater things to come.
Shaladay, my brother. Shaladay. Yep.
Cannot rest until we find out the greatest man in the world was taken from us. Yeah, I kind of feel that way, that we need to get to the truth of this. We need to find out what's going on. All right, so Liquid Ice. Is there evidence of Robert Ladd and Blondie in Las Vegas the night Tupac was shot? That's coming from Liquid Ice. Great question. The answer to that question is we don't know. We don't know that there was. But what makes it very interesting, and I go back to the information that we have from the altercation with Kevin Hackey and the police reports that were made by the Las Vegas police when they got involved with Kevin Hackey at the hospital. One of the things that they said, now Kevin Hackey came to the hospital the next day. I mean, he was there within 24 hours. And so within 24 hours of the shooting, there's a police report that's made by the Vegas police, and they actually say that they are concerned for the public relations of the Compton Police Department in this Las Vegas Police Department report, which is weird because why would the police care about anybody's public relations or their image? But somehow or another, they were interested in the image of the Compton PD, and they thought it was bad for the Compton PD's image to have Kevin Hackey in town. So what I gather from that report, and that's what we have to use, is that there had to have been, maybe besides Reggie Wright Jr., there had to have been others from the Compton Police Department that made their way to Vegas within that 24-hour period to go to there, because why would they be concerned about Compton PD if Compton PD was nowhere to be found? So I think that there is because Reggie was gone. He wasn't on the Compton PD, Reggie Jr. He wasn't on the Compton PD when that shooting happened in '96. He had already quit the Compton PD. So why would they be concerned about Compton PD? Only because maybe somebody told them they should be concerned about Compton PD. So that doesn't say that Tim Brennan was there. I have no proof that Tim Brennan was in Vegas that night. He may or may not have, but we don't know. We'll see. But no, I don't see the evidence that he was, for sure.
So Realize brought up the point that A&E is going to be doing body language on Orlando Anderson, and he's saying that it's that's a trap, it's a setup. And I think it's
of course,
funny.
Where did they get that from? They got that from us. I mean, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but it's a blatant ripoff because the producers there on the show talked to me. I talked to the showrunners about it. I was very involved with the A&E show, just so you know, and I am putting it out there that I was very involved with that show. So was Jesse. We were very involved with it, and I got paid from the show. So there you go. Okay. So at the end of the day, the show is out there. They're going to make their thing, but they do a body language thing with Orlando Anderson. And of course, you know, a body language expert is going to be as good as their credibility. Okay, that's why we went with Susan Constantine, because she's an expert with internationally. She's like one of the most renowned body language people. So whatever A&E drums up on Orlando Anderson, he's got an opinion. And of course, that's why what you do is you put out that footage and you let someone else who's a body language expert look at that footage. And you better be damn sure that whatever footage he's looking at, they're going to put on A&E and they're going to look at that footage. He's going to give his opinion. You better be damn sure we're going to get our own expert on it. We're going to offer up our opinion about it too. Okay. So that's that. I mean, you know, it's again, it was always, and this happened with the Pattons as well. We had many long discussions with Susie Constantine about, you know, could it be nervousness, the tics? Could it be uncomfortable? Are they uncomfortable? She knows the difference between discomfort, and telling the truth, telling a lie. So we'll see. Now, the interesting thing about it is that, you know, they didn't ask Orlando Anderson, as far as I know, in the interview footage. I don't think they really asked Orlando Anderson a lot of direct questions other than, you know, did you have anything to do with killing Tupac Shakur? I really don't think that they asked him too much more than that. But again, we don't know. We don't know what it's going to say. It may be a setup, maybe it is. But I think what they're doing is they're using that as one avenue for you to take a look at, or if they're fair about it, they'll put our part on there and they'll put out what we have to say, and people could be the judge. I mean, that's what we did with the assassination movies. We put out a particular point of view, and it's up to you to make a decision on what you believe. You know, that Greg Kading's not like that. Greg Kading doesn't do movies like that. He preaches at you and tells you this is what you need to believe, and you're an idiot if you don't believe it. We just say, you be the judge. In fact, that was the tagline on the first assassination movie. You be the judge. So that's I don't expect anything to come from it. But if it does, and it at least treats us fairly, I can't complain about that. But then again, the nice thing about it is, you know, all these people, they've got a parabola. They've got a trajectory. They're going to rise and they're going to fall. They're going to start and they're going to end. It's like the ocean comes and goes. Pendulum swings both ways. A&E is going to show for 6 episodes. A&E, they may or may not put it out on DVD or put it out on documentary. It's going to be on YouTube. But these things don't, Jesse, these things don't have a big shelf life. You know, shows like Fox, I mean, come and gone, it's done. You know, Battle for Compton lives forever. Tupac Assassination, you know, they're still bootlegging part 1. Okay, 2007, people are still ripping it off because they want to watch it. Okay, that's a good thing. You know, our stuff just lasts. Okay, these shows, I mean, you know, Case Closed and all these other shows that they've done on Tupac and Biggie, they're shows and then they're gone. They're poof, nothing. They're the vapor. Okay, so they'll have their few minutes and they'll have, you know, run for a few weeks and then it's done. It's over with. Our big thing is in April, right around mid next year. We're going to be going at it hardcore with not only Assassination, with Labyrinth, with Rust Pool, with you know, the experts, Randall Sullivan, people that actually know what they're talking about, people that actually have looked into this stuff and actually understand it and get it. You're going to be killed with that stuff in, you know, middle of the year, along with a huge marketing campaign for the Johnny Depp movie. I mean, you know, these people are going to shot their wad. They're going to be done. And with with a one-trick pony like the A&E show, and a one-trick pony like a Greg Kading, they're one-trick ponies. They're done. They've done their bit. They've done their little dance, little tap dance. Show's over. Okay, it's done. Okay, we have legs. We've been working on this 10 years. We've been at it 10 years. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. We're still coming on strong, and every Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 has new information in it, and nobody can take that away from us. Don't you think, Jess? Nobody can take that away from us.
Absolutely. And Real Eye says that Khaleesi's also said Tupac only came to Vegas at the last minute. That's what everybody's been saying. Even, what was it, Aunt Glow that said that she was telling him? No, it was Lena.
Yasmin Fula didn't want him to go. Lena Sunday didn't want him to go. Yeah, it was a last-minute decision, and it was because Suge called him up and said that they were going to, everything was fine, but they wanted to talk about the money, and they wanted to make everything right, and they were going to squash the whole beef in Vegas that weekend.
Last-minute decision or not, it was still very important for Death Row to have him there at that fight. There was a lot of pressure being put on Tupac to have him there in Vegas. Go ahead.
Kid Dre, hang on 2 seconds, Jess, said, Big Frank once said that Pac's killer is dead. He actually said Pac's killer is probably dead. And the reality of the situation, and we've talked about this, but it's actually a good thing to talk about for a second, is that, Frank said, quite honestly, I changed my mind. I don't believe that anymore. Because you got to realize, I mean, when you've got police people shoving a theory at you and they're trying to put it around you and they're trying to push this person out in front, and the media is just eating up whatever they're shoveling them, that's what's out there. And until you have information to the contrary, information that refutes it, what else are you expected to believe? What's the alternative? So, that's the thing. And when Frank said, when I got the information, I changed my mind. It's okay. You can do that. Good, Jess. Sorry.
No, I just want to address e.d.i. E.d.i was brought up a couple times. E.d.i, I think.
E.d.i, I don't mean?
Yeah, e.d.i, I don't mean. I think what goes on with e.d.i is e.d.i will pander to whoever he thinks his audience is at the time. I caught a lot of flack for what I said about e.d.i, but I stand by it. And I think what the Outlaws concerning Noble and e.d.i, what they're doing and living off Tupac's legacy, it's just a shame. And it's old by now. It's been 21 years. These guys ain't rapping their own songs. They're doing tours. They're doing... How many times can you do a tribute to Tupac on stage? So if you really want to look at who's eating off the carcass and who really let the legacy down, I would say it's e.d.i and Noble. And I'm going to have their old manager on one of my live streams just to let you know how shady those guys are. Go ahead, RJ.
Well, again, it comes down to, just overall, just general credibility. I mean, when they say one thing to one person, they say one thing to the police, they turn around and say something else, then they're not credible anymore. So, that they're just... that was what that was all about, was just calling them out for what they are. I mean, they're running around on a legacy. They haven't produced albums that have sold anything. They were given 5 years. And to be honest with you, and we're going to put it out there, even Aunt Glow said, Gloria Cox said that the Outlaws couldn't get the shit together as far as the writing goes, that, they weren't really getting it, and that Tupac would have to send them away and tell them that they couldn't eat dinner until they came up with something good. And, of course, he would waffle because they still couldn't come up with something good. But, I mean, even Tupac recognized that, they were young, they were kids, okay? So, they have had 20 years to do something different, get on a track with somebody else, work with somebody else. And by the way, e.d.i was willing to interview with Frank and I for Tupac assassination too. Okay, I've got the emails about that. He was owed $5,000. He was going to interview for Frank, and he wanted $2,500 up, and he was willing to carry Frank $2,500 on the back end for it. So, clearly whatever the politics are, he was willing to put politics aside if you had money. So,
the big contradiction about e.d.i is when, with produced evidence of his statement, he said 21 years later, I never changed my story. I show him his statement, he's like, well, I lied to the cops. So the thing about e.d.i and them is they just compound one lie with another lie after another lie. And like RJ said, they go to where the almighty dollar is. If they want to get paid to be put on TV, well, you better have a story to tell. And e.d.i's statement to the police is, I didn't really see anything until they were driving away. That doesn't make for compelling TV. So just keep that in mind when you're listening to him rehash a 21-year-old story that he's told 8 different times in 8 different ways.
Paul Jamison said, question, have you seen the YouTube video of the high up from Warner Brothers? I think you're talking about Jimmy Iovine, saying he was the real one that posted Pac's bail behind the scenes and Suge was just a front man for his bail. Look, okay, Interscope was the company that wrote the check for the bail along with an attorney, was supposed to be a Madonna's attorney, provided the other part of the bail money. But the check that came from Interscope, Jimmy Iovine was running Interscope at that time. That bail came from Tupac's own royalties. Jimmy Iovine is spinning it to make it appear like they just pulled a check out of their hat because they were nice guys and they just dumped a bunch of money on a guy that they were seriously considering wanting to keep in jail because they thought that that would keep him in line and would calm him down a little bit from his antics that got him in jail in the first place. They thought that he would chill out. They thought he would calm down. They thought putting him in prison might mellow him out, and he'd be so anxious to want to get out of prison that he would get back to work again. And, to some degree, he kind of did. He got back out and went right to the studio and started working again. He worked like he worked, and many people that we've interviewed said that the reason Tupac worked so hard in the studio was because he was really afraid of going back to prison again. And he was scared that he wouldn't be the #1 guy like he was when he was already in there. He had a #1 album when he was in prison, that he'd go back to prison and that somebody else might dethrone him and take over and be bigger than he was. So with that looming over his head, he wanted to work to make sure that he had an entire catalog of music recorded so that he could, if he actually went back to jail again and they had it in for him and the fix was in, and he went back to prison and permanently went back to prison, not just revoked from bail, but I mean permanently went back, had a trial, and got convicted, and he was in jail. He wanted to make sure he had a library of stuff that he had already done. So that's kind of what that was all about. But Jimmy Iovine only posted the bail that was Tupac's royalties. Tupac paid his own bail. Those monies were advanced. They weren't advanced royalties. They were earned royalties that Tupac had already earned but hadn't been paid. Normally speaking, a distributor takes about 6 months between earning the money and when the distributor pays you. So during that whole 6-month period, the bail could be spoken for, and then when it was time to write the check, it was actually money that Tupac had earned. That was his royalties from the albums that he had done. So,
specifically
Suge was a front man for the bail. What's that?
I was saying specifically Me Against the World.
Right. And Suge was a front man. Suge didn't put up a dime of the bail. Suge was just the guy that showed up, just like Publishers Clearinghouse. The guy that shows up at your front door, Ed McMahon, he didn't write the check. Okay, Ed McMahon didn't write the Publishers Clearinghouse check. He didn't pay you. He just showed up and said, hey, you won. Okay, woohoo. And that was it. So it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.